In the last year, I switched up my cardio routine to just walking. I'm going to share with you some of the biggest mistakes that prevent people from losing weight using walking.
Okay, but is walking actually a legit form of exercise? Hey everyone, I'm Abbey Sharp. Welcome back to Abby's Kitchen. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I've seen a lot of chatter online that walking isn't actually real exercise.
Walking is great. Do not count that as exercise.
Like, I feel like we need to insert the biggest obnoxious eye roll meme in here, because when we consider all of walking's amazing health benefits in combination with the fact that it is like so accessible, claiming that walking isn't exercise just feels so elitist and like straight up stupid. But is walking an effective weight loss strategy? Well, that's a little bit more controversial. But fitness influencer Chalene Johnson believes it can be. And she's broken down 6 of the top mistakes that people are commonly making. So we are going to be unpacking these so-called mistakes, and we're going to talk about what the research says on walking for weight loss. But of course, before we get started, don't forget to check out my description. I got a free Hunger Crushing Combo ebook in there for lots of no BS nutrition tips. And of course, a link to order my new 2-in-1 plant-based probiotic protein powder, New Theory. Okay, let me hop in quick to tell you about my sponsor, Rocket Money. I don't know how many apps I've signed up for trials for, only to inevitably forget before they start to charge me on a monthly basis. And it's really not until I do a deep dive in my credit card bill before I realize I have even been charged. And I'm admittedly not a finance girly, but I hate wasting money. I hate it so freaking badly, which is why I've become totally obsessed with Rocket Money. So Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and just generally manage your money better. Basically, Rocket Money identifies reoccurring charges, and you can see them all right there so that they are not hidden away in your credit card bill, and then you can easily cancel them all in one place. You don't have to like harass a customer service rep or inevitably forget until you've been charged again, because we've all been there. But Rocket Money has canceled over $500 million in unwanted subscriptions. That is crazy. And if you have money saving goals, you can also choose the amount and frequency that you're hoping to save, and it will automatically deposit the savings into your smart savings account. I'm also trying to teach my kids a bit more about money literacy right now, so I've been showing them how that works on the app. And right now, you can get a free trial when you sign up for Rocket Money using my link. And seeing as this app really helps save you money, you are not going to want to cancel it. Go to rocketmoney.com/AbbeySharp or click the link in my description to get started for free. All right, let's get to some mistakes. I said the WALK word, and I'm going to say it a lot, and she's listening. I know, baby girl. We just not right now.
The first mistake that most people make is they're just not walking enough.
So when it comes to weight loss, there's really like no magical workout that will make you lose weight. It all ultimately comes down to a calorie deficit, which means you need to be burning more calories than you're consuming, or consuming less calories than you're burning. Now, obviously I'm oversimplifying things here because of course there are hormones and medications that can make maintaining a calorie deficit more or less difficult. But still, the deficit is a prerequisite for weight loss. And there's a million ways to create a calorie deficit. And yes, adding walking to your routine could contribute to energy expenditure, which then contributes to said deficit. And knowing this, our general exercise guidelines recommend at least 150 minutes per week of moderate to vigorous activity. And the American Society for Sports Medicine recommends about 200 to 30 minutes a week for weight loss specifically. So that is about an hour of moderate to vigorous movement 5 days a week, which is absolutely more than what most people manage to get. What's next?
The second biggest mistake is walking too slowly.
So yeah, this plays into the qualifying description of moderate to vigorous activity that we mentioned earlier. But what exactly does this mean? So there's a couple ways to measure exercise, like heart rate zones or perceived exertion, or METs, which stands for metabolic equivalent of tasks. So moderate to vigorous refers to about 3 to 6 METs and includes things like brisk walking, cycling, doing like heavy manual labor, swimming, etc. Of course, it's very important to note that METs are very individualized. So like a brisk walk might be a much higher intensity for like an elderly woman versus a teen boy. But generally speaking, a brisk walk is around 3 to 5 miles per hour on surface level. How do you know what your speed of walking is? Well, we can do some math basically. And if you walk for 1.5 miles in 30 minutes, you get 3 miles per hour. You can also do the talk test, which is like a quick little rule of thumb that if you're doing moderate intensity activity, you can talk, but you can't sing. And if you were doing vigorous activity, you really couldn't say more than a few words without pausing for a breath. Obviously, the more vigorous the power walk, the more calories you burn.
And when it comes to weight loss, exercise is an important piece, but the most important piece is your nutrition.
Okay, so this is 100% correct. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased and I transferred from my kinesiology degree into a nutrition degree. But even though I did say that walking can theoretically contribute to a calorie deficit, which is essential for weight loss, in the real world, its potential impact is kind of sad. Basically, our energy expenditure, which is 1/2 of the calorie deficit equation, is 60 to 70% coming from our basal metabolic rate, aka the energy we need just to literally keep us alive. 10% comes from the thermic effect of food, or basically like digesting our food. 15 to 30% comes from NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and only 5 to 15% comes from intentional exercise. But on the other end of the equation is our diet, like how many calories we consume, hard stop. So basically you have 100% intake to play with through diet and only like 5 to 15% through exercise to manipulate. And this is why people often say you can't outrun the fork. Well, unless you're like Michael Johnson. But again, that doesn't mean that walking can't be a valuable weight management tool. So for example, one study found that people on a reduced calorie diet who walked for 5 times per week for 12 weeks were able to lose inches off their waistline as well as more body fat compared to those who just followed the diet alone. Interestingly, there wasn't actually a whole lot of difference in weight loss between those who walked 30 minutes versus those who walked 60 minutes. So just kind of keep that in mind. But generally speaking, the research has shown that while weight loss in the short term is similar when comparing diet only or diet and exercise interventions together, people who do both are just better able to keep that weight off long term. Now, I talked about the difference between weight loss and fat loss in my video right here, but we don't want to lose muscle. We want to lose fat, while of course building or at least maintaining that metabolic muscle. And the best way to do that is not just through walking, but through strength training and also a high protein diet, which she brings up in her next mistake and suggestion.
If you're just relying on walking, you're missing the point. You still need to put muscle in your body. Your muscle is the secret to your weight loss. It's the secret to your metabolism. It is the secret to your longevity.
Now, I think she more accurately means the secret to fat loss, which really should be the goal over just like straight up losing weight. As you can see from this handy dandy graph that my colleague Eric Williamson designed for us, resistance training alone makes up 87% of the effect of muscle maintenance and growth while in a calorie deficit, while protein makes up only the other 13%. Together, of course, they reign supreme. So if you do want to lose fat and keep it off, you do want to maintain that metabolically active muscle mass. Now, the ideal sweet spot seems for most people to be around 10 sets of an exercise for each muscle group per week, or what ends up being at least 3 workout days per week at a high enough intensity that you're training near muscle failure. And the higher the calorie deficit, the more protein you need. Ideally, around 20 to 30% of your calories coming from protein. Anyway, if you want to learn more about fat loss without losing muscle, I have a whole video on that right here.
All of it is energy out. So every step that you take counts. And you want to find creative ways to get in extra steps.
Yes! Yes, 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 yes. As I always say, all movement is good movement. And as we just mentioned, all of this unintentional activity, aka NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, makes twice the impact on energy expenditure than the time that you intentionally put in at the gym. So that could mean things like fidgeting, tapping your foot, playing piano, cleaning, standing, pacing, doing all this that I do. I mean, we do a lot more of it than we think. And because we don't think about it as like punishing or work, we don't tend to reward ourselves with extra snacks for like fidgeting the way that we may reward ourselves after a hard boot camp class. Now, obviously, you can't force yourself to unconsciously tap your leg, but there's still a ton of ways to build movement into your day that aren't like a structured 30 minutes on the treadmill. So you could like take a phone call on a walk, or stand up from your desk to like stretch every hour, or take the stairs instead of taking the elevator. Like I said, all movement is good movement.
What we track, what we are monitoring, we can improve. I know we all think that 10,000 steps is like the gold standard, but truly the gold standard is more. My goal right now is to get in at least 19,000 steps a day.
Okay, so this may or may not be good advice, just depending on the person. So first of all, some research does suggest that tracking your steps can help to increase physical activity, at least in the short term, which makes sense because, like a watch on your wrist serves as a very visible cue to action. That said, obsessively counting steps can very quickly spiral into an obsession, especially if you're kind of like the type of person to hyperfixate on numbers. And if you're here watching my channel, that might be you. So it's like, one day you set a harmless goal to walk more, and the next your watch battery dies and you like cut your walk short because in your mind, if you haven't tracked it, it didn't happen. But yet, this is exactly what happened to me, and I have a whole video sharing my experience on my channel right here. And I'm not alone in this. Like, studies have linked exercise tracking to restrictive behavior in eating disorder patients, and there's a growing body of research into whether the use of wearable fitness trackers contributes to the development of eating disorders. As for the 10,000 step a day recommendation that we've basically all ingrained in our minds as gospel, this was actually started in a Japanese marketing campaign for a pedometer. And they arbitrarily picked 10,000 steps because the Japanese character for 10,000 looks kind of like a walking man. Cute, but actual science is obviously a lot more complex. Now, the research compiled in a meta-analysis actually suggested around 7,500 steps as the magic number for reducing mortality risk, with only marginal decreases beyond that. Another study that looked at older women found that decreases in mortality happened around 4,400 steps, and then the same leveling off of benefit happened around 7,500 steps. I mean, if 19,000 steps works for you, amazing. Like, again, all exercise is good exercise. But if fat loss or weight loss is the goal, you are much better off like having that walking time and investing the rest of your energy and time into a strength training routine and, most importantly, a balanced diet. Like, most of us do not have hours and hours every single day to devote to our weight loss goals.
Our bodies actually are constantly trying to conserve energy. Our bodies are always trying to find ways to burn fewer calories. Easiest way to kind of trick your body is to change up your routine. You can do it by walking faster, by adding a weighted vest. You can do that by, if you're walking on a treadmill, adding an incline, looking for terrain that is more rigorous, like hiking. Once something is no longer challenging for us, our bodies adapt. And that's when they stop burning as many calories.
Okay, so while we do see some cardiovascular adaptations during aerobic activities, this isn't actually a huge deal when it comes to walking for weight loss. Even high volume runners become less than 5% more efficient from beginner status to advanced as their technique improves. Now, the bigger reason why we may burn fewer calories as you progress in your fitness or weight loss journey is that your body is likely now smaller and lighter because you've lost weight, and therefore you'll burn fewer calories doing the same walk or run or exercise that you did at a higher weight. That said, we actually have a pretty good general rule of thumb that we burn around a calorie per kilogram of body weight per kilometer of distance run, or half a calorie per kilogram of body weight per kilometer walked. And that basically holds true regardless of training status or how long you've been at it. So to summarize all of this, walking is amazing, guys. Like, it is 100% exercise. But there's no set amount of steps that you need to do to lose weight. Like, we have an estimation of set amount of steps associated with improved longevity and health. And actually, as we just established, those steps and really any intentional exercise is not really gonna move the needle that much when it comes to the number on the scale if it's not accompanied by a reduction in calories consumed. So does that mean we just shouldn't even bother with exercise? Immediately no. This to me is the problem of getting caught up in the right or wrong way to walk or the potential walking mistakes that you're making for weight loss. It's kind of like losing the forest from the trees. Walking has a myriad of benefits, including just a few of these random stats that I'm going to give to you right now. Number one, walking for just 30 minutes after a high sugar meal can reduce peak blood sugar by 13%. 2, walking an hour a day reduces the risk of breast cancer by 14%. 3, walking for just 15 minutes can help reduce cravings and consumption of sugary snacks. 4, walking supports your immune system with just 20 minutes, 5 days a week, reducing sick days by 43%. And 5, walking briskly for 75 minutes per week reduces the risk of depression by 18%. And that, my friends, is just scratching the surface. So while walking maybe shouldn't be the priority if fat loss is your goal, no exercise should be, walking is 100% an amazing form of exercise and should absolutely not be discounted as an amazing tool for supporting health. So I really don't think of any of these things as big, horrible mistakes, especially since walking 10,000 steps versus 19,000 steps is probably not going to make a huge, crazy difference on the scale, period. All movement is good movement. Say it with me. All movement is good movement. Charlotte and Brody, all movement. Okay, guys. But I really think that people should be encouraged to do whatever little bits of movement they can. At the end of the day, walking is just one tiny little piece of the calorie deficit puzzle. So let's try to just reframe our interest in exercise in general as great for your health, no matter what happens on the scale. And on that note, that's all that I have for you guys today. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps me out. Like this video, leave me a comment below on what videos you'd like to see me cover next, and I will see you next time on Abbey's Kitchen. Bye!